Hey everyone, I am the TheChosenOneLegend here, as always joined by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Kai, also known as Fascurreyn.
And welcome back to the BunchaJokahs podcast, where we talk gaming news and what we've been playing from the past month. And it's been interesting, lots of smaller things. We're of course approaching Game Awards season, so that's a whole elaborate complexity that neither of us will be staying up for, I assume. But we'll see. We'll report on that when that happens. But I don't know, how's your month been, Kai? You been alright?
Yeah, it's cold.
It is. That is accurate.
That's my main takeaway. It's like cold and tired, but no, things have been good. Like, I mean, as I said, I've just been keeping busy with particularly long games, and it's
good way to do it.
Just been going through the motions, really. So it's not been too bad, you know.
Yeah, and I've definitely got some highlights, and I'm going to have some words about later on in the podcast in Games Time. But before then, we of course have our first segment of the podcast, Can't Have a Podcast Without News Baby, where we go over the news highlights of the month. And to start things off, we got a direct, kind of, going over the new Donkey Kong Country Land in Super Nintendo World, which we did an entire video talking about our ideas and theories for what other Nintendo things could get their own theme parks, so check that out if you haven't. But as for like Donkey Kong Land itself, what do you think just from what you saw of it, Kai?
I think it's alright. I'm not going to say like, oh my god, it's mind-blowing amazing. I think the existence of the theme park in the first place kind of does that.
Yeah.
And the Mario stuff's very cool. I think this is a neat addition. You know, I don't dislike anything that's in there. I think it's all quite fun. All the different interactive bits, as usual, are really, really creative. So, it's cool. It's cool. I definitely would like to go at some point.
Yeah, I think it definitely falls in the line of it's cool and everything we see makes sense. You know, like having a roller coaster based on like the minecart rides. Yeah, that makes sense. Having the little interactive things around the park be the Kong letters you can find, and it's all pretty neat, but I don't think either of us are, mega Donkey Kong fans, so we're not going to be, popping off about it. It just looks fun, really. And it's a family theme park, so that's kind of what it needs to be. I guess I will say that I do think one of the cooler bits is how many animatronics we saw, with like the Rambi that pops out when you play the drums.
Yeah.
We saw Cranky and we saw Dixie and I believe at the start of the ride, so they really went all in with those sort of elements to it, which I got someone at my door. I'll be 1 second.
Okay.
Keep going. Keep it going.
Keep going, okay. It's cool. Watch our other video if you want to know about our ideas, because we had a lot of them that I think would definitely adhere to certain audiences. But Donkey Kong, I think Donkey Kong makes sense.
Stop it.
Goes sort of hand in hand. Fits with the new movie. Yeah. I think it could work quite well. They have a ride for the Donkey Kong Land, don't they?
Yes, I'm gonna have to mute out the dog barking. But yeah, they have like a full-on minecart ride, which they didn't really get to show off. They showed us like the first 5 seconds, and that's it. And I thought we were gonna get like a run through of the entire roller coaster, but nope, just a tease to mess with us. But it all looks really like enjoyable. It's just like, for me, it's just a case of, okay, what can they learn from this and bring to the inevitable Xenoblade section? But again, we discussed that. That's its own video.
Yeah.
But let's move on then to our next topic here, which is one I was very pleased to see, because we got an announcement of a new Sakuna game, Sakuna Chronicles, Kokorowa and the Gears of Creation, which, I mean, it's been like years since the first one, and it was one of my favourite games I played that year. So when this popped up on my feed, I was like, oh, now they're doing it. I guess it sort of makes sense with like the anime was recent, so clearly they've been building up. And I was less surprised than some people, because this was actually teased in the first game at the end of it. So basically what this is, for reference, is it's going to focus, and we didn't really see much gameplay, but it's going to focus on one of the side characters from Sakuna, called Kokorowa, who's like a goddess of invention. She creates machines and stuff. And the ending of the first game sort of teased that she had her own adventure, and it looks like this is what that's going to be about. So it's just cool to see this getting another go, that it did pan out, that it clearly sold well enough for them to keep this series going. I think my main question is how this is going to play out in terms of, if you know from Sakuna, that's very much about the farming, right? That's that's sort of the whole mechanic, is you build up your farm and then you use stuff you got from that to explore the world, and you collect things to continue your farming, and that's the cycle. Kokorowa does machines, so clearly this is going to have to be a little different. Kai, you should play this game though. One day.
I should. I still know very little about the series apart from what you've told me. So yeah, I guess there's even more reason to now.
Yeah, add it to your list of Astral Chain, right?
Yeah, it can go on that list, sure, if you want to see it played next decade. Yeah.
But I basically imagine it's going to be the same sort of thing, like a combat action platformer. And maybe rather than going back to your farmstead, you go back to your machine workshop, where you can use bits you've collected to build upgrades for yourself, and then use those upgrades to find more pieces to continue to upgrade, and basically the same cycle the farming had, but with machinery and that kind of weaponry instead. I almost wonder if maybe it'll almost be a bit Echoes of Wisdom with how she creates machines to fight for her. There's possibilities for it to be fun anyway. But that was something that was really a nice surprise. But let's pivot on to something that is a disappointment expectation, complete opposite, because Game Awards nominees. Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to be honest, the main 6 for Game of the Year seem pretty solid. They're Balatro, Wukong, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, A Metaphor, Refantasio, Elden Ring's DLC, and Astrobot. What do you think of those, Kai? Any standouts?
I mean, at this point, I really struggle to care.
Yeah, that's we have to mention
really
it. It's really
difficult to, but yeah, we do have to mention it. I mean, I guess from what I know very little about some of these. To run through them is obviously Astrobot kind of seems like the all-rounder option of it's kind of incredibly well received. It is new. It makes use of the console and the controller.
It's one we both need to play.
An all-round, a 10 out of 10 approachable game is all I've heard about it, just like the original. So we will both get round to that soon, I'm sure, so we can start competing on the new world records.
Oh no, yeah.
So yeah, we'll both get round to it and give bigger thoughts, but that's a pretty safe choice. Balatro is definitely a fan favourite, because that's a roguelike card game.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool that those types of things are getting in there. Wukong is kind of one of the big AAA popular games on that front. So it makes sense to have that one in there. Don't really know much about it. Metaphor being the new kind of Persona. It's a
pretty much, yeah.
SMT, a new SMT type game is probably what more people would prefer to hear, but okay, again, RPG. Final Fantasy Rebirth obviously makes sense, and if I was voting, that's what I'd go for. I've given already enough thoughts without even beating the game that I think it ticks every box.
It's earned its spot for sure, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I would absolutely pick that as Game of the Year based on everything it does.
Yeah.
But it wasn't I don't think it sold particularly well.
No, I would like to see it get that recognition, because Remake lost out to The Last of Us Part 2, which swept every single award in the show. So it would be nice for Rebirth to win and get its time there.
Yeah, and then the final one, which had a bit of controversy was Elden Ring DLC, because obviously Elden Ring, I think they were kind of licking their lips at the Game Awards previously, going, oh my god, we've got a game that everyone loves and it's a 10 out of 10. Oh my god, we could just give this every award. Voting isn't real. Let's be honest. They just pick things out. So they're oh my god, Elden Ring. So I think this year they've kind of gone, oh wait, we're kind of struggling on games. Let's throw in the new Persona and the card game that everyone loves. And then also, let's just throw in the DLC of this game because everyone loves this game, and it just, I don't know, this feels like pandering. This
Oh,
choice to me,
for
like
sure.
I'm not
I
going to
mean-
say, oh, it doesn't deserve to win or it's illegal. Like you can do what you want. It's your award show, but it does feel like it's pandering a bit to be like, oh, here's this DLC just because they love this game. No other game would get elected for DLC.
Well, that's the thing. Is like everyone's pointing out among our, community, where was Future Redeemed in that case? Because
Yeah, exactly.
it's one of those things where it's like people are maybe arguing it shouldn't be there, but I think it makes sense. Again, I haven't played Elden Ring, but I'm assuming it's a very hefty DLC comparable to like Future Redeemed. And if we look at if we take that as an example, like yeah, sure, it's DLC, but it's got its entirely new gameplay systems, new story, new locations to explore, lots of new refinements. It's really a sequel game. It's just smaller than an actual game, but you don't say, well, Celeste was 6 hours long, so we can't include it for Game of the Year. No, there's not a length limit.
Yeah, the length is kind of
Yeah, so something like Future Redeemed, even if it is DLC, like it's still its own entirely new game. It deserves to be there. So I think Elden Ring probably does deserve the spot. It's just the fact that, of all things, no game has got this before except Elden Ring, because Jeff loves to suck up to Elden Ring like it's Kojima. So it's...
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I don't mind it being there, to
No.
be clear. Like, I think if it's a good game, it is long and it's very well received, like, I've got no issue of it being there. My only issue with the cynicism around the Game Awards as a whole is why it's there. Is like,
Exactly.
I don't think they put it there because they genuinely thought it was good. I think they put it there because they went, oh, people like Elden Ring, so let's pander to them.
Yeah.
I think they put it there for that reason rather than it being a good game. So
Very much so.
It's fine that it's there. It's just, I don't know. I look at all of this and think there's motives behind it all of just, I don't know, appealing to shareholders probably.
Yeah, again, what we're going to look forward to is some god tier remixes, Flute Guy popping off in the orchestra. That's all I need. We're going to hear some good Rebirth in there. So
that's true, and
that'd
outside of this main award, outside of this, there really is nothing that I care about too much. The only one is the Unicorn Overlord, a game I beat near the start of the year that I highly rated, is nominated for strategy.
That's cool.
Which makes sense, To be honest, there haven't been many strategy games this year, so sure. But outside of that, I went through the whole list and I just went, man, I don't care. Like, for one,
no, I'm not voting.
What is it? The family category is always a funny one. Of I think it was Echoes of Wisdom was in there, and stuff like that. And it's like, just say it's like the Nintendo category or the cartoon category, more likely.
I think Nintendo hasn't got really a lot going this year. Like, they're not in Game of the Year, and granted, I don't think they really have anything that is Game of the Year level anyway. So I think the one exception people do say was snubbed was Emio. Apparently, like, everyone who played that says it's like an incredible visual novel. So that maybe deserved to be up there, but a visual novel was always going to get snubbed, so that's not a surprise.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no. So it's like it's fine this year, but I don't know. I hope Rebirth wins, and that's about it.
Yeah,
Past that, I have really no stake in any of this.
Granted, there's a reason we're not doing a series of Game of the Year shorts ourselves this year on categories, because we both haven't played that much that came out this year. It was a bit of a quieter year in some regards. I did a lot of backlog. So we'll see what happens, and more importantly, we'll see if anything interesting comes from the show itself. But I'll catch that up the next day, not staying up till like 4 a.m. for it.
I will too.
Yeah. We only did that. We only tried that once when there was a Smash reveal, and that luckily happened right at the very start of it. So, phew.
Yeah.
But yeah. Otherwise, let's move on to our final news topic from the month, which is our final trailer for Sonic 3 movie. That's the real gaming event of December. Forget the Game Awards. That's what I'm looking forward to. Oh, they gave him a gun. They did it. The mad lads.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
It looks like a laser gun, granted, but still.
Yeah. It's still a gun. It counts. Yeah. So, I mean, I loved the second movie, right? When I've definitely watched the second movie.
Can you... It's been a while, Kai. Can you recount the plot for me again?
Yeah, the thing is, I probably could, and I'd get it 95% accurate because it's a very predictable film.
That
Yeah,
is true.
there's Tails appears, and then Knuckles appears, and he's like, "Oh, I'm a bad guy," according to Eggman. And then like
Hmm.
they fight a bit, and then they go around some different places. Sonic runs fast. Spoiler.
He does.
And then at the end, Knuckles is like, "Oh no, I'm a good guy," and then he beats up Eggman, like the trio.
But they don't play the Sonic Heroes
And
theme when it happens, so it's a bad film.
ooh, they're saving that for the next one. So
Oh,
yeah, no,
please.
I have not watched the second film, but I will before the third one comes out. I'm sure of it. But
Definitely.
yeah, no, the trailer for this one is looking good. You know, obviously Shadow we already knew was in there, and we get a bit more insight into what's going to happen in the plot.
Yeah. It's generally like what I appreciate is how far into like Sonic Adventure 2 it seems like going. We are getting like the you know you have to say it, the pissing on the moon, you know. That's what
Yeah,
everyone thinks of it
yeah.
as now, but we are getting that in some capacity there. They're doing the full on space stuff, and it just goes to show how much they've learned from the first one being this generic buddy movie with Sonic happening to be there. Then the second one embracing Sonic more, and the third one, yeah, let's just go crazy in the lore, throw his grandpa in there. Why is he dressed as Santa? I don't know, but whatever. It looks a lot of fun, and that's the main point, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks good. I mean, the thing I was saying to you before is like my only worry with this, which is sort of looking likely to happen, is that it follows the same presumed sequence of the second game of like, oh, new Sonic character appears and is against Sonic for most of the movie, and then at the end turns and joins Sonic and beats Eggman, and it's like, are they going to do the exact same plot point 2 movies in a row? I'm genuinely not sure.
It seems likely at this point. I mean, maybe they'll throwing like an extra layer of villain besides Eggman. I mean, can't remember what they fight. There's like some like alien object they fight in the adventure, I think, and maybe there'll be more emphasis on that. But yeah, it's probably going to be pretty basic at its core. But then again, you don't really come to Sonic for the deep, plot. More just the weird shit, and we're getting that at the very least. So yeah,
Yeah, pretty much. You know, I think it looks good as well. Like,
it does.
you know,
Yeah.
that's the thing, is that visually it's all very well made again, which is nice. You know, the flashbacks to the first trailer from the very beginning, and
Oh
everyone
yeah.
being worried. So it's come
Meow.
around significantly since then. Oh god, yeah,
Yeah.
it's done significantly better now, which is good to see.
I also find it funny they reference Detective Pikachu when Sonic and Pikachu have met in Smash, and that it's a weird it's a weird meta thing, but there goes our Smash universe. Shame.
Yeah, hey, you never know.
You
You never
never
know.
know.
Things could always change.
Multiverse, right? But
Yeah. Hey.
I think that's pretty much it for the news of the month. So let's move on to our final segment of the podcast, Games Time, baby, where we discuss games we've been playing. And I've got two ones this month that I want to mention. So I'll start things off here with one you're also quite familiar with, Kai, Danganronpa V3. I can finally look up Danganronpa stuff on the internet without fear of seeing like a 1 second spoiler. And by that I mean my YouTube feed is now filled with recommendations of Danganronpa shit posts. That's all I'm getting. Not complaining, but
I'll take you through the lore of that at some point, I'm sure.
Oh no. Buckle up. But I mean, it's a hard thing to break down, of course, about spoilers, but and I won't say any spoilers here, but it's a Danganronpa game. You know exactly what you're getting, and it was a good one. It was really fun. I think it's interesting gameplay-wise. They made a lot of refinements from 2 in terms of like the mini games and stuff in the trials. Hangman's Gambit no longer crap. You know, it's a lot of sort of refinements, I would say, gameplay stuff that sort of worked better. I loved the whole split opinion thing where you like split into 2 different groups and back and forth between them. That was really cool. It's simple, but like the music and like the visual design of everyone like moving into an arena for it. There was a lot of that kind of stuff where they played around with the visuals and the UI more than the last games did, and it just felt a lot smoother because of that. Still jank at times. Like the thing with Hangman's Gambit I have to complain about is that it always, the word it uses, it's always really obvious what you want to say, but they use some random word you would never have guessed. Like, for example, if you want to say that something was thrown, I'm making this one up. You're looking for the letters for thrown, but they're not there. And the word they're using is chucked. No one said chucked. Why would that be the first word you think of? But they just pick a random synonym for the obvious word, and it's really obnoxious, even though you know exactly what it is. There's problems still, is what I'm saying. But whatever, you get over them, you figure it out. It's really fun, and just like the mysteries going on, the story behind it. Although I think in terms of the overall how it comes together in a cohesive plot, that's probably the weakest of the 3 games, I think. It get hard to say without spoilers, but it makes bold moves, as you warned me, Kai, I can see why they're controversial, very much so. And although I respect it, it does leave things, less satisfying, I think, at the end. But when it comes to the individual murders and mysteries, in general, I think this is the strongest set of characters in the series, I kind of want to say. In terms of, I feel like every character gets a moment, an arc. There aren't any who look cool but then die off without doing anything. Like every character has really interesting dynamics, particularly without spoilers. But like there's like a main trio that I really love their sort of constant development throughout. I think that's
which isn't like obvious at first either,
No.
Which I kind of like. It's a very natural development.
Exactly. I think it really builds relationships between the characters. Although it doesn't serve the greater plot as well as the other games, in just a way that's fun and enjoyable to watch, and makes it compelling. And it's interesting, like comparing them. It's kind of they're all very consistent. Like I can see any game being somebody's favorite in these series. And I don't know if you know this, Kai, but is it like an even split on like what's the fan favorite?
It is pretty much an even split.
Yeah, it feels like it would be because they all have their own benefits. I feel like 1 is the most like overall cohesive and like comes together in the perfect way. I think 2 is like the more chaotic game with just more open and more weirdness. And then 3 is somewhere sort of kind of in between where it really sells the character moments. And it just like...
I'm going to make a comparison here that's going to ruin your perspective forever. I very much view the 3 games in terms of their style and what they get across in a very similar way to the High School Musical trilogy of movies.
Okay, no. Go on.
Especially with the second one being like summer-based and everything, and then the third one having significantly higher production quality.
Yeah, and the third one goes back to like the first one setting a bit. And, in a sense. Yeah, no, wow, that is... uncanny, actually.
So that's another one, another comparison you could make. But no, they are in terms of like being people's favourites. It's kind of split pretty evenly across the 3 because they all do different things well. Yeah,
I can see that. Like the only other problems I had was it crashed a few times on the Switch, and there was like one moment at the end of the game where there was lots of like dialogue on screen and it actually slowed down, which I'd never seen it do before. But you could tell it was struggling a bit more. It was a higher performance game. But it wasn't ever a big issue, If it crashed, I can mash B to skip through text to get where I was, So really, really fun game and really damn good series. It's kind of a shame that this is the last one, but also, where do you go from here? How many times can you do this again and have a new mystery to solve, right? Like...
Yeah,
there are limits.
And again, without spoilers, you do get to the end of this game. You kind of, for me at least, when I saw it, I sort of realised, I think this is pretty clearly a nail in the coffin.
Yes, yeah. You can tell they're done at this point. Danganronpa
as it is. Good, though. Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, it's I find it a really interesting one considering like how far after the first 2 games it was made.
Yeah.
The production quality is very obvious as well.
Definitely. I like things like in the trial, like if someone's speaking, like their podium moves to the center and stuff like that. It's the little details, but they do add up.
Yeah, I think during the non-stop debates, like the characters' words being all animated and sort of all the special effects they do of that is really fun. It just makes it even more interesting with a bit of personality. So that's all really good. The characters are really well done again. Like some of the lines, man, they do have fun with it, don't they? They really have fun in this game.
They get like what's the word? Cruder, maybe each game, to the point where there were moments that genuinely shocked me. Like they can say that in a video game. Mostly,
I'll tell you right now, the voice
Yeah.
director for the English dub was Muse voice actor. Like she was
That
the director.
that explains a lot because I was going to say most of the shocking lines were between Mew and Kokichi, and their interactions.
Yeah,
He
she was the
calls
voice
her some
director.
things.
So.
Yeah, that makes it even better. Or
Yeah, so
concerning.
it's a really interesting game overall. Like I think you can very much see in it they do perfect the system at this point. They know
Yeah.
what to do and how to display characters right.
Absolutely.
Whereas in the other games, maybe some things would have felt a bit awkward, and they don't do so much in this game. Yeah, the plots and the schemes are all quite good in this one as well. Lots of different directions the trials go in. The ability to lie is a really interesting one because, of course, that's
Yeah.
kind of a big focus of this game. It's a feature that can be very much underutilized because it does go under the radar. But I think it's a really cool concept, and it's
was.
almost a shame that they didn't do more of that because it's such a neat idea. But I suppose some other game will come along and do it.
Yeah, I like that it was optional, wasn't it? At certain points, at some points you have to lie, but
Yeah.
there's optional alternate routes, and I don't think I took any of those because I'm just trying to focus in on what's the right answer here. But I like that I like that as an option, and it fit even very well with all the themes of the game, and they did something. How they just managed to make new shocking twists at this point when they've done so much already. It's like, how do you keep it going? And yet they made it work for a third time. And in many ways, that toy with your expectations, they're very clever at toying with your expectations from the other two games. What do you think's going to happen? But also, they're like, okay, but you try to metagame it too much, you're going to get nowhere, basically. So it's very well done, and. Yeah, I just got to finish Ace Attorney now, but that's one visual novel series checked off at least, so we're getting there.
Yeah, you're all good on that one. Yeah, it's a very... I mean, they obviously know they have a good premise that they were working with, so... Yeah, they got one more game out there, sent a message, and, unless you want to play the... whatever it is, they made, that special...
summer game.
Extra summer game thing that isn't really a game. That's basically the series done. So yeah, I will say again, I've mentioned this in other places. I've seen about 10 playthroughs of this game, maybe at very least, the important parts of it.
Yeah.
And you are by far the most accurate out of all the different experiences playing this game I've seen.
What can I say?
In terms of guessing who did it and what, and specifically what happened, because a lot of people will point at a suspicious person and be right, but you've managed to guess what happened in more cases than anyone by a long shot. So I don't know. I mean, that must be the Ace Attorney knowledge coming in, but that was impressive.
It's partly the Ace Attorney knowledge, and I've always said you can't metagame it. Part of it was me trying to think of not just from the previous games, but and I enjoy writing stuff. As a writer, what would I do here? Trying to get those little bits in there. It's an interesting way to figure out, but it is funny, like you said. I often figured out what happened, but not who actually did it. That was always the bit I was missing. Even at points where it's actually more obvious than you'd think. But that's the thing. It never felt. It had the balance right. It was. Nothing really came out of left field, but at the same time, even if I pieced bits together, it was never too obvious, and there was always a twist to it that I didn't expect. So. Yeah, it good series.
It's good.
If that's how it ends, then sure, that's a good way to do it, I think, altogether.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, but what about yourself, Kai? Because I don't know what you've been playing. You said you had something.
Well, to start off, I've just been playing Rebirth, loads. I really don't even have any updates from last time either.
Yeah.
I'm into the 6th explorable area, and I've basically completed it now. I think I've got one little bit to do left, but
your end game, you're getting there.
Yeah, I'm very much in the end game now, so I'd like to think that next month I can talk about me beating this.
Should be.
But yeah, because I'm doing the 100% stuff as well. So that's going well. So I'll just say that's where most of my time has gone. Doing all that and my own game development. The other one I just want to talk about, because I don't have anything else to talk about. Let's talk about Ludo.
Oh, Kai, are you sure you want to talk about this
51.
here, not with your therapist? Because oh,
honestly, I'm on a bad streak.
He is.
So yeah, like I've talked about 51 Clubhouse games on here before, I think.
Years ago,
and I'm
maybe.
pretty sure I've talked about Ludo. Yeah,
Yeah.
years and years ago. And like, I just want to say, yeah, I think I've played over 100 games of Ludo at this point on Clubhouse games. It's just, I don't know. I mean, for some context, the reason why we do this now, like where it started, was because in Clubhouse games when I first played it, is I was kind of there is actually like an 100% route on that game in terms of beating every game on every difficulty as well as every mode. Some will have variations. Ludo is very simple. There's only one difficulty, which is normal, because I don't know how you'd have different AI for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, it took me like maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 tries to beat it, something like that. Nothing too crazy, but if you remember how long those games go on for, when you're playing with 4 people, it's like a 45-minute game. Obviously, it's more close to like 15 or 20 with the AI, but even still, like doing that 6 times and literally there being no strategy but just tapping the A button over and over again and hoping for the best when you're playing against AI is excruciating. It was even in the original on the DS, they had Ludo on there and I hated it there too. And I remember emphasizing that on stream and obviously if I emphasize that I don't want to play a game, that's what happens, is I end up having to play it over and over again.
Oh, of course.
And then it's just caught on now because I'm sort of seeing the charm, although it's like a completely luck-based game with very little strategy. There is a little bit, but not much. I actually do think it's kind of a fun party game in the sense of like, you really don't have to take it seriously. You can have a bit of fun with it and like, that's it. It's pretty chill in that way, and we do a lot of games of it now just casually. And I feel like it's one of those games where just by the pure nature of it, it's very easy to make a lot of like things out of it. I go into full poetry mode every time we play it.
I think it all comes down to like the core bit of the one decision you can make is to save or not to save if you're about to land on someone. And do people form alliances? Do they, you spare them once, they spared you back, but then they might betray you and get you again, and sometimes they're forced to. That's where the chaos comes into it. It's just that small mechanic, but you can big it up if you've got a good group of friends with it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's just one of those things where like, it's almost, I mean, D&D is one where we're both playing that. I don't know, maybe we'll talk about that at some point, but like,
it's related.
That whole game is like, they have a core format, but ultimately it's what you make out of it is what makes it fun.
Yeah.
And I feel like, a crazy comparison, but Ludo is kind of the same. Like, if you're sitting there in silence on your own, mashing A against the computers, it's not fun. But then if you start trying to like make storylines out of it, out of the really simple stuff that's happening, there's actually a lot of potential there, a lot more than the other games on there. So I don't know. I just wanted to mention it of like, it's a game that I still think is a terrible game, but like there's a certain charm to it when you make something out of it. I do find it quite poetic in a sense. So I just wanted to mention that really because I have not played anything else, and I'm on a particularly poor streak at the moment for our online games where I just keep getting done over at the very end.
Yeah, you even rage quitted that one time, Kai. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm much better at the physical game though. I feel like there's a real technique that comes with a physical game that's lost online. It's kind of like playing Smash, like, LAN or online. So it's kind of like that, the lag.
It all comes down to like the intimidation of being able to, eye to eye with someone as well, and that's part of the strat.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like poker or something. Yeah. It's tough.
I would love a Ludo World Championships. That's all I'm saying. I saw one for rock paper scissors in Japan once. Let's do it.
I'll be there. I won't get very far, but I'll be there. I mean, I guess maybe I will because it is luck, but we'll see.
You never know. That's the fun part.
But that I need to get Clubhouse games one day because Ludo is peak. But until then, the other thing I guess I've been playing this month, which I have mixed opinions on here, Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, the OG one, which I used an NSO voucher to grab. Part of my logic being, this game never goes on sale, so it's a good value for money to use your voucher on. goes on sale 6 days after I buy it for the first time in 3 years. Because of course it does. Oh, wow. I'll get over that. I'm still glad, got to... Because I had it on the Wii U, but I didn't have Legends on the 3DS, so I didn't get to play all the new characters, the Wind Waker content, Link, all that stuff. And, it's a fun game, it's... All the good stuff that I remembered from before is still there. Compared to Age of Calamity and whatnot, it's the fan service game. It's the game where you have characters from all the series just merged together, really good remixes of different tracks. And original ones too. Silent Guardians is a banger I would recommend looking up. There's all sorts of the specials I think are, and different weapons, how they have deep cuts like, sure, play as Agatha, the bug collecting girl from Twilight Princess. Who would have thought of that? But it's funny, and it makes a very unique moveset. You got things like one of Young Link's specials. He calls down the moon from Majora's Mask, turns into fierce deity, and then cuts it in half. And that's just a special move. It's ridiculously badass. But it's that kind of attention to detail that I really love about it. And that's what separates it from the other Hyrule Warriors game, and other Warriors games in general. Because even the first Fire Emblem Warriors was pretty naff at the fan service. But what I did find was, although it is, an upgraded version to the Wii U original, I kind of had a worse experience playing it than the Wii U original. And that's really what it comes down to, what I didn't think of. Yes, it's an upgrade, but even that, it's still a 10-year-old game or whatever. And we've had so many better Warriors games since that have really improved the formula. And things like, in the original Hyrule Warriors, you couldn't change character mid-battle. You were stuck as whoever you picked. And they fixed that here. So that's a big upgrade from the original, that you can now switch characters mid-battle. But it doesn't feel like an upgrade because the last 5 Warriors games have done that. So it's...
Yeah.
The upgrades feel less satisfying because they're just bringing it mildly up to scratch. But then you've got things like the AI, who are garbage. And I don't expect them to be Free Hopes good, because you played that yourself, right, Kai? And they are god tier there.
Yeah, they are overpowered.
Yeah, it almost feels like you're playing a strategy game. You're in the menu more than you are actually fighting in that game, because they'll just do things for you.
Oh, absolutely, I was. Yeah.
Yeah, which is I kind of like it for that. But this shouldn't be that. But man, your AI are just completely useless, and it means every battle is an uphill battle. It's way more difficult, which some people like, but that's not what I really play a Warriors game for. So it kind of meant things were a bit more of a struggle, even if the different characters were a lot of fun to play as. And the other element to it is just how ridiculously bloated it is. This game has an over 1,000-hour completion time if you want to do everything.
Really?
How long to beat says 300 hours. That is not true. It's going to be at least 1,000 because of the adventure maps. Now, the adventure maps are separate challenges, where you've got a map of the original Legend of Zelda overworld, and each square is a different challenge, and that's a cool concept. But first of all, you have to do the fight to unlock more of the map. Then you want a bonus. You want to get the bonuses from that challenge, but you have to use a special item to find where to unlock the challenge. So you have to do another battle to unlock the item. But then you need a second item to actually fully get the challenge, so you need to do a third replay to get that. Then you need to do your fight to get the item, which is the fourth replay. But you might have a second item with another character to get, so you have to do it again, that's a fifth replay. And you need to get the A rank, which if you didn't do before, that's a sixth replay. And also there are hidden fairy items, which if you didn't look up where they are, that's a seventh replay. And then that's assuming you do it all first try, without failing, which could be several more replays, because they are really difficult, some of them. And that's one square of 100. And that's one map out of 10. You start to see the issue here.
Oh my god. Yeah, I had no idea. This is all new knowledge to me.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And there's some exaggeration because you can... For start, I used a guide, which you need to use. You're insane if you don't. Which means you can do it efficiently and cut down how many attempts you have to do. So it's... I was exaggerating a little bit there, but... Even so, it's still, even if you half that, it's insane. And so many of them challenges are fun. Having you play as different characters and try them out, it's a cool idea, but I don't want to replay it that many times. Some of them are like just fight the bosses over and over again, which are really the worst part of the game are the boss fights. They just wait for them to attack. And sometimes they'll attack quickly and give you the opportunity to counterattack. Sometimes they won't, and you just have to wait for 5 minutes. And these can be timed as well. So it's just a string of bad decisions of what were they thinking. Not helped by the fact it's, compiling 2 previous editions worth of content. So it's just way too much. And it needed to be streamlined in some way where you only have to do each challenge once, and maybe twice if you fail it, but that's it, I had to use a guide because playable characters are locked behind these. So I had to use a guide I've managed to get all of those, even though some of them are tough. But I'd love to get all the costumes and all the different weapons you can use, but I'm never going to spend that amount of time in this game. I have...
Yeah, no, that's absurd.
I have some semblance of a life. Not much, but enough that I can't do that. So it's...
it's a good thing that I haven't picked up this game, because if I did, I would get sucked into that as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm very glad I'm not touching it.
I will give it some credit. There is fun to be had in the adventure maps. I couldn't think of a new game to play. I'm sort of maybe a bit burnt out on gaming. So what I've been doing is I've just been doing the adventure maps every now and then. It's because it's portable, it works well for that. You can just do a few missions in handheld. So there is fun to be had. I just wish it was streamlined so that I could complete it, but I'm never going to. It's not a chance. And it's also not helped by the fact I really never liked the leveling system in Warriors games, where everyone levels separately, because it really disencourages you from playing as every character. Because it's so expensive to keep everyone leveled correctly. And there's 30 characters in Definitive Edition, so it's even worse because of that. So that just adds to the bloat of trying to keep track of everything and make sure you have everyone the right level to use in the challenges. And it's just a thing of there is such thing as too much. But at the end of the day, it's still a good game. I still recommend it. Just you have to sell your soul if you want to complete it. That's just a pre-warning.
Yeah, I think I'll pass on that for now.
No, it's probably smart. And although I love it for its fan service and it runs really well. There's no problems Age of Calamity has. Age of Calamity is way more fun. It feels more passion, even though it's got less variety in the movesets. The ones you have are really, really fun, even more so. It just the way it embraces the world of Age of Calamity and also of Breath of the Wild, and also has voice acting. This game has its own story, which is kind of neat, but it's just characters speaking with text boxes, and it's really awkward. You can tell this is pre-Breath of the Wild. That probably wouldn't be the case if it was released now. But so it's just been outclassed in almost every way, basically. So it has its own flair, but this just makes me appreciate the current Warriors games even more, and make me hope they are cooking on the Xenoblade Warriors, because please. But we've said that enough times.
Yeah, it's a bad one. It is one of those games where after playing that, you have a better appreciation for the newer ones and how refined they are.
Absolutely, yeah. But that's about it from me, and I guess you have nothing else, Kai, so...
Yeah, no, I think that's it for now.
Let's call it there. Thank you everyone for listening. It's been a good one. Of course, you can find us here on BunchaJokahs on YouTube, or audio-only versions on Spotify of podcasts. And we do reaction videos whenever they do announce that Switch 2 sometime. They gave a limit of April, so we're getting there, or March. You can find that all here on BunchaJokahs, all under the same name. And Kai, where else can people find you at?
Twitch.tv/Fascurreyn. I'm on there. Go find me.
He is on there. He's gonna finish up Ni no Kuni 2. It's happening. We're getting there.
Soon.
And then Astral Chain. But anyway, we will see you guys in the next one. Take care and goodbye.
Bye.